Will you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. We just heard Luke's version of the Beatitudes, those famous blessings with which Jesus begins his teachings. And I must admit, I get tripped up a little bit by the Beatitudes because I have something of a love-hate relationship with that word, blessed. The word blessed gets thrown around a lot in both Christian and secular circles. And it's kind of like that scene in The Princess Bride. I'm not sure the people using it really know what it means, you know? In popular culture, it translates into something between really lucky and hey y'all, check out my privilege. People say things like, we just got back from a cruise. We're so blessed. Really? Is that what God's blessing looks like? In church circles, blessed is often used as a synonym for holy, something that's related to God, but then, is it everything related to God? And then in the South, blessed is actually a 4-letter word, as in, oh, bless your heart. I think we can safely agree that none of these are what Jesus is going for with the Beatitudes. When he says, blessed are you who are poor, blessed are you who are hungry, who weep, who are reviled. He's not calling them lucky. He's not calling them holy. And he's surely not trying to passive-aggressively insult their intelligence, all the while wearing a sweet church lady smile. The first psalm that Gilbert read for us uses the same word that Jesus uses, blessed. But here it is translated happy. Happy are those who delight in the law of the Lord, and on God's law they meditate day and night. This gets us a little closer, I think, to what Jesus is trying to say. The people who are blessed are on the right path. They are close to God. They have cause to rejoice. But would we say happy are the poor, the hungry, those who are weeping? No, that's not quite it. The best explanation I have heard for this word blessed comes from Christian historian and author Kate Bowler. The act of blessing, Kate says, is the strange and vital work of noticing what is true about God and ourselves. And sometimes, she adds, those truths are awful. Blessing is the work of noticing what is true about God and ourselves. When Jesus chooses to bless the poor, the hungry, the weeping, the reviled, he is saying something about their relationship to God. There is something more honest, more genuine about these people's relationship to God than there is with those who are rich, full, laughing, spoken well of. Perhaps the blessing is the honesty. Because people who are poor and hungry, weeping and scorned, know in their bones something that is actually true for all of us. That we are wholly and utterly dependent upon God. That's not something we like to admit, is it? We want to be self-sufficient, to rely be masters of our own destinies. And sometimes when we have enough luck and privilege, we can delude ourselves into thinking that we are the authors of our own good and bad fortune. But Jesus says, "Blessed are you who are poor. Blessed are you who are hungry. Blessed are you who weep. Blessed are you who are hated and scorned by others, because you know the reality in the depth of your soul. Everything you have comes from God." There are no bootstraps in the Bible. Blessing comes to us when we acknowledge our full and utter dependence on the grace of God. And woe comes when we struggle and try to pretend that that is not true. Our God is the God, one commentator says, of those who have nothing but God. But even then, as we come to understand or begin to understand what a blessing is, a new question arises. What are we supposed to do with them? And as with many scriptures, I think the secret here might lie in the grammar, specifically in the pronouns. Y'all have heard me get on this soapbox before. When Jesus said, "Blessed are you who are poor," the you is second person plural. So he's actually saying, "Blessed are y'all who are poor. Blessed are y'all who are hungry. Blessed are y'all who weep. Woe to y'all who are rich," etc., etc. These blessings and woes are pronounced not upon individuals, but upon communities. And in communities, people are not all the same. Jesus' followers have always been diverse, then and now. So his words, "Blessed are y'all who are poor," falls on the ears of rich and poor alike. But the blessing is to none of us individually. It comes to this gathered body, the community as a whole. And I think that means there's some nuance to how we receive these blessings. If we don't know where our next meal is coming from, for instance, Jesus' blessing on people who are hungry offers comfort and reassurance that our God has not abandoned us. And if our fridge happens to be full of food and we have money to buy more, then Jesus' blessing is a call to action, to solidarity, to bless the hungry in our communities. To the extent that we are poor, hungry, weeping, or reviled, Jesus offers us God's blessing. And to the extent that we are not, Jesus invites us to be that blessing for those around us. And then somewhere in that messy middle, mixed up in the space between the comfort and the call, all of us together experience what it is to be blessed. Those of you who have been around here a while have heard me talk about Kate Bowler. I quoted her just a moment ago. But for anyone who's new or who might have been napping, Kate is a professor of Christian history at Duke Divinity School who spent the first part of her life studying a phenomenon called the prosperity gospel. You've heard of this so-called gospel in popular culture, even if you're not familiar with the name. It's televangelists asking for money, or Norman Vincent Peale telling you, think positive and you'll achieve your dreams. It's distorted aphorisms like, God helps those who help themselves. Ever heard that one?
Mm-hmm.
You know who said it? Ben Franklin, not Jesus. There's this version that's developed over the years of Christianity that teaches, pray hard enough, have enough faith, and God will bless you with health and wealth and, hey, maybe even a fancy car. If this sounds absurd and a little un-Christ-like, that's because it is. It's a perversion of the gospel, but let's be clear, it's out there and it's quite possible or quite popular. And sometimes it's hard to know the difference. What Kate learned in her studies, though, is that this gospel can also be quite dangerous. Because as she was finishing up that dissertation on the prosperity gospel, she was diagnosed at age 35 with stage 4 colon cancer. And she realized that while most of us don't actively believe in this prosperity jargon, we church people don't have much language for what to say when the unthinkable happens. We get silent, or we kind of back away. We don't like to be reminded of the truth of our fragile human existence, that we are wholly and utterly dependent upon the grace and love of God. Kate decided that her task, for however many years she has left, was to give the church back that language. So she started writing books of blessings for real life. She started trying to bless the unblessable. That's what Jesus is doing here too, right? Blessing the unblessable. So friends, in that spirit of Kate and of Jesus, I offer you this blessing from one of Kate's books, entitled A Blessing for the Life You Did Not Choose. Blessed are you when the shock subsides, when vaguely you see a line appear that divides before and after. You didn't draw it, and you can barely even make it out, but as surely as minutes add up to hours and days, here you are, forced into a story you never would have written. Blessed are you, in the tender place of awe and dread, wondering how to be whole when dreams have disappeared, and a part of you with them. Blessed are we, loudly shouting, is there anybody else here? We hear the echo, the shuffle of feet, the murmur of others asking the same question, together in the knowledge that we are far beyond what we know. Gracious God, show us a glimmer of possibility in this new reality, this new constraint, that the small truths will be given back to us. We are held. We are safe. We are loved. We are loved. We are loved.